Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Thanks so much for joining us for the Confluential Live today. I'm Kyler Cheatham, joined by Adam Cheatham from the Confluential. We are a system architecture firm that specializes in technology implementations, development, and IT for heavy industry. So, metals, mining, biopharma, all of those different, very complex manufacturing pieces. Today, we're talking about something that's pretty niche, talking about DevOps at the speed of AI. And when we say DevOps, it's more of like a general term of how is kind of IT meeting the speed of IT or the speed of AI, excuse me. And how do we kind of structure our teams to be able to be supportive throughout that? So before I kind of introduce Adam or let him introduce himself and say hi, let me just give you a few logistics for today's live. So we can see your comments no matter where you're joining us from. And we are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, a variety of other platforms. So anywhere you comment, we'll be able to see them. As always, these conversations are about what you want to talk about, not so much what we want to talk about. So definitely feel free to ask questions, to join the conversation, because ultimately it doesn't really matter what we say. It matters what is working for your business is going to be successful. So we appreciate all of you joining in today. So happy Friday to all. If you don't join our TikTok lives, I invite you to do that. We are live twice a week over there. We'll actually be live this afternoon having a very similar conversation and all of those different pieces. So with that, I'll let Adam introduce his role and we'll get into the conversation. So happy Friday, Adam.
Happy Friday, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. My name's Adam Cheatham. I'm the CEO of The Confluential, and this is going to be a fun topic because it gets a little bit more technical, but at the same time, it takes us to a place where AI is really impacting a lot more than meets the eye. You know, at the end of the day, you have DevOps as something that is used is a methodology that's used for delivering services to the business, and AI is accelerating that quite a lot. But at the same time, you have to be, the governance remains something that is critical to the conversation on the whole. So we'll talk a bit about that today also, and excited to have this topic in front of us today.
Absolutely. So let's just jump into it. I think it's helpful to do like the old world versus the AI shift to kind of talk about like the challenge of doing this. So from a general landscape, traditional DevOps, right? We're more built around human speed. Developers write code, someone reviews the code, someone tests the code, someone deploys the code, right? And a lot of that is built around depending on your structure, maybe tickets or however that works. So days to weeks more. And now we have this shift where AI can write code. AI can generate tests, review, vulnerabilities, create documentation, and even like in a very technically mature organization, it can do things like suggest infrastructure changes. So it's not so much that coding becomes the bottleneck. It's more of understanding how that all fits in. And I think I would be curious to what you think. I think the new bottleneck is almost like trust. Like, is this right or is it wrong? It's not so much like us building it that takes the longest time, but how can you validate that fast enough? And that's kind of the new constraint is almost a quality. Would you agree with that?
Well, yes and no, right? Like it's kind of all over the place, and that's what AI has kind of done to the world, right? You got volume increases, and when we're talking about releasing, code, integrating new software, providing services on the whole from an IT perspective, to a certain degree, quantity and velocity is an increase in quality, right? So the more we can put out, the more IT is able to serve the business, and that increase in services is easy to call an increase in quality. At the same time, you can certainly screw a lot of things up by moving too quickly. and using AI in the wrong spaces, right?
Mhm.
You can certainly create a lot of security holes
Mhm.
and those types of things as well by not doing your due diligence on the whole. So, this part of this is the discussion of how does how to use AI for writing and validating code.
Mhm. Yeah.
Automated testing, fantastic. That type of
Mhm.
intelligent automation, predictive incident responses, where we're trying to predict breakages, those types of things. There's a lot of work that can be done in that to make things more proactive rather than reactive. But if we're all over the place when we're just plugging in a bunch of code and trying to accelerate velocity by just having um, no governance and not using AI as a safety net too, then we can create more problems and then quality comes down, right? So it's not a AI adds quality or AI takes away quality. It's the same way any other tool using it properly
Mhm.
can increase quality, and using it improperly will cause problems.
Yeah, and I think that, that's a big conversation starter with this question. How is AI changing the software development lifecycle? And a lot of times when we look at that, I think, it's not so much of writing software faster, right? It's where like code creation and bottleneck of where we're trusting that governance. Like where can we ensure that we're having these quality checks on our governance, that we're actually catching things
Yeah.
when we're utilizing AI. So that's a big piece of how it's changing that life cycle. But at the same time, there's levels of discipline that we need to be able to continue to have involved in that. Curious to what you guys think in the audience too on this question.
Oh yeah. Well,
Um,
I think that overall, when we're talking about changing the software development lifecycle, DevOps is a piece of that, and there's also from a DevOps perspective, SDLC is more the dev side of it. Ops is more
mhm,
the service request side of it. But when we think about AI in the sense of software development lifecycle, it accelerates everything. Um, we start with writing requirements, and you can use AI to clean those up more quickly and have it interrogate your requirements. What's missing?
mhm,
Right? What
mhm,
am I not thinking of? With a good prompt, you can ask an AI engine to say, walk through this workflow, plug in my requirements, and tell me what requirements I'm missing, what areas of my workflow I haven't anticipated. You can also pull in the existing code base if you have
mhm,
access to it and identify areas that say, if I want these things, what other impacts if I'm going to change these things in my process, what other processes are going to be impacted based on how it is my code is written. And you can start looking at upstream and downstream things
mhm,
that you need to pull in at the requirements segment of it. And just that small piece of improvement can
mhm,
do a lot of good downstream, because now we're better at knowing what we need and having a more complete view. Will you always have unknown unknowns? Yeah, that's pretty
mhm,
normal. But at the same time, I think that the fewer unknown unknowns that we have that show up later, um, the better. And if we increase our quality of requirements up front,
mhm,
then we understand what we're asking for more completely. That way we can convey that to the business, to IT more
mhm.
completely. They can design something more completely. And that's just the one step, right? That's if you just
Mhm.
use AI at the
Exactly.
beginning. You
Yeah.
start plugging it in along the way, and you're really starting to snowball on what you can do.
Yeah. And I mean, you can use it in a variety of different ways. It's refining those requirements, right? But then
Yeah.
it's also, giving shrinking the gap between I have an idea and it's actually working through
Yeah.
things like, you can automate user stories. You have acceptance criteria that can be drafted instantly, a variety of different things. And so I know we have a lot of questions here. About talent and things like that. So let's go to Chris here. I lost it because there's so many amazing questions. Are small businesses understanding the AI advantage for developing apps they normally can't afford with certain services and things like that? So
Yeah.
I'll I'll caveat this and I'll let Adam answer it. We're not small business specialists. So most of the time what we work with are on an enterprise level, but we can certainly take a stab at it.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we are a small business, so there's that piece of it, and I would say it's hit or miss, right? When you think about small business, you have a bit more of an all over the place mapping on who is adopting AI for the development of applications and who's not. That usually tends to be one more isolated to one leader saying we're going to use this and we're going to use it here and here, and then it's more dependent on that one person being good at it. So the answer in that is I would say a lot of them are, but a lot of them are trying to and failing, and a lot of them are just simply saying that's too complicated for me, because this gets at the question of how big do you have to be to have an IT department, right? We don't have one, but at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that we don't use AI to isolate that gap and be able to manage all of our own internal applications, right? So yes, absolutely, small businesses are starting to understand this, and I think that what we'll find in this case too that will start popping up is small businesses that understand that AI can be a service for them, and that can be used a bit more effectively. But if we're thinking about more for
Yeah.
developing applications, I think that the thought process of I can develop an application that I can build is isolated to the folks that have a technical skill set already. Most of the traditional small businesses, my thought is that they're staying away from more of this, in that they're ending up in more of a traditional small business environment, and so the development of applications, they just haven't reached a maturity and size that applications are necessary. But once you start getting into the double digit millions, I would say, yeah, absolutely. And they're starting to think about how they can start shrinking that cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, this can go for any business of any size. It's not about the amount of, AI code you're generating or, vibe code apps you're building. It's about understanding the operations that are
Yeah.
going to make you successful. So I think a lot of businesses right now, especially in the SMB category, are either A, being taken advantage of by firms that say they can, build this and do this, and then we're giving the keys away to our business, which is really dangerous. And then two, they're building things that aren't scalable, right? So you're going to have to rebuild those or redeploy those, because things like process design, just baseline business knowledge, security, governance, data quality, all of those different things, those are
Yeah.
not going to go away. So we have to ensure that we're not going too fast without skipping those just because we have access to low code or no code tools, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's a big piece in that conversation.
And
But
I
sorry.
think that, there are a lot of questions in here that are around, what happens when we increase speed, but people aren't able to keep up. What about accountability? Someone knows the outcome when AI makes a mistake. What new skills will DevOps teams need when AI can generate code faster than humans can review it? I think of this very much like a manager,
Mhm,
in a lot of ways. We're talking a lot about AI increasing delivery velocity, but our organization is actually increasing their capacity to review, govern, and
mhm,
operationalize all that new input, or we're just creating more work downstream. There are a lot of folks that are using AI in a way that is just simply generating more work
mhm,
that doesn't add value, right? And
mhm,
that's not isolated to just DevOps. You can write a whole bunch of code, and somebody says, "All right, we need to review this code," and then you plug it into an AI engine that says, "Review this code for tightness and cleanliness and all of that stuff," and it rewrites it. That's what it does. And so you get the same thing, the same mechanism, and it's coding that's just rewritten. And
mhm,
that's all you just did is wasted the initial work and now created more work to review code that an AI rewrote to figure out whether or not that's actually gonna work. So we've got to be careful to use things effectively as opposed to just using it. But when we think about this, from a perspective of what does that mean from a DevOps perspective, I think about that management type of approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, as an individual, a lot of or whatever it is you want to call their career path from being an individual contributor to being a manager.
Mm-hmm.
And as a part of that, you have to be able to let go of I didn't touch it. I didn't do the work. I didn't actually create this output. It's my job to make sure that the people creating that output have the tools to do a good job. And then it's my job as a manager to create the structure and the governance around that so
Mm-hmm.
that I let them do their job, right? We got to think about AI that way too, in that AI can do one step. And then when we talk about things like review, governance, operationalizing things, AI can have roles in those spaces too, just to help match that speed. At the end of the day, there's a piece where you still have to have human in the loop feedback, but at the same time, if you're creating this in a way that is fully automated and using AI to its full capacity, then you certainly need to be thinking about it less as one step, and this one step creating a whole lot more work for the people around it,
Mm-hmm.
and that one step creating more work for more AI agents and more AI tools to then create a consolidated point that you can manage as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to actually deliver.
Absolutely. And so do you feel like there still needs to be human checkpoints at every, review stage or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, you've had self-driving Teslas for ages at this point, but they still say somebody has to sit in the car. I guess Waymo's a little bit different, where they have automated, all of that. But I think that the vast majority of it will still have a human in the loop type of input, because the idea's got to come from somewhere, and somebody has to make a decision on what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. What are we going to build and what we're not going to build? There are regulatory things that we'll always have to respond to. We've got a client, for example, that has a sensitive product that can't be
Mhm.
exported to certain countries,
Mhm.
and that list is managed by the government, and they have to bounce every transaction that they're sending off of it, and they have to make sure, even to the point of, I just packed this product. I'm
Mhm.
putting it in a box, I'm putting it on a truck or whatever you want to call it, and I'm ready to ship it to customer 1, 2, 3, 4. I still have to bounce that off my list and say, is that customer still whitelisted? Can I still ship to them?
Mhm.
Or did we learn something about them recently that
Mhm.
leads us to believe we can't? Right. So that keeping up with things, there's always at least for the foreseeable future, there's still a human role in that. But I think that the acceleration that AI is able to handle, and that can handle for its own counterparts, right, from a
Mhm.
DevOps perspective,
Mhm.
is fantastic. I think that the service request side of it is going to
Mhm.
speed up the most.
Yeah.
Uh, I need to create. I just hired a new employee.
Mhm.
He or she needs a computer. They need logins to our ERP and our CRM, and
Mhm.
they also need an email address. Blah 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 blah. Create this and create all their logins. There's no reason that a person needs to do all that stuff.
Mhm.
Those that's a repeatable task that AI can do, and that a person can say, did we get all of these things set up? Is this person ready to go? Where's their computer? Boom, here you go, ready to start. And that's something that sometimes AI agents should be able to do pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to, because everyone wants to talk about DevOps, headcount, roles, how that will actually work. Do you have any like prediction or thoughts about like the DevOps team in 5 years? Like, will 20% of that be automated and we can reduce headcount? Or how would you look at that if a CIO was talking to you about it?
If a CIO is talking to me about it, I would say that this will go with the speed of your capabilities as an organization,
Mhm.
right? That's like saying cars will get faster, so we'll be driving faster on the highway. Well, maybe not. I mean, you still have folks that camp out in the fast lane and go 5 miles an hour or 5 kilometers an hour under the speed limit. That will still happen until the end of time. It's just a human behavior, right? So when we think about what our capabilities are, the other side of it is you got some folks that they buy faster cars, and what do? They wreck them.
Mm.
As long, long time ago, was working at a golf club, and one of the members there had bought this Ferrari, and he was loving it. But he lived in the housing community, right? I had this Ferrari for a few years. Didn't really learn how to drive it. Just kind of had it, and he only drove it the 2.5 miles from his house to the clubhouse and back and forth. Right? It had like barely double-digit miles on it on the whole. And he decides as he's coming out of the front gate on his way home, he's going to open it up. He's going to step on the gas. And within 30 feet of that gate, he wrecked it. He ran it right into a tree that was in the median. His wife heard the car crash
Oh my gosh.
from her kitchen, and it wrapped his Ferrari around a tree. That just because the car goes faster doesn't mean that we know how to handle it. Are there a lot of people that could drive a Ferrari 200 and some miles an hour down a twisty road? Yeah, people do it as professionals all the time.
Mhm.
They're professionals, right? But at the same time, for the rest of us, learning the tools that you're getting, and learning how to use these things quickly, it takes time, and it takes an effort to do that.
Mhm.
So think about speeding up delivery from a DevOps perspective. It still takes that diligent approach on where are we going to do this and how are we
Mhm.
going to start this conversation. And then
Mhm.
we start gaining traction. How do we know that we're getting the right answers that we want? And then
Mhm.
how do we take the next step? Yeah.
Mhm.
There's still the conversation of lessons learned and all those types of things. So,
Absolutely. And we're talking about DevOps and AI right now, just in case anyone needs a
and
check
going
in.
too fast.
Yeah, no. So, and this is interesting to me because, like, Porsche used to be one of my clients, and whenever they would test their cars, they used to have professional race car drivers come in and drive this.
Mhm.
They do a lot of, like, driving experiences off road and things like that. But the first thing the drivers would do is turn off all the auto controls. They didn't like any of that, and so I wonder if, like, that is what a lot of old school DevOps people will do, or developers, is turn off the AI or not be able to kind of align their workflow with what, now this new kind of delivery mechanism within the organization.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of that, right? It's how do I know that this agent created the right security roles and permissions and stuff like that? So especially for sensitive things, I'm gonna do it myself, right? Like if you're talking about driving a performance car,
Mhm.
at speeds that could kill you. Yeah, a computer making a decision for you when you're trying to feel it out could kill you, especially if you don't know when it's going to make that decision,
Mhm.
right? Same with security and DevOps and those types of things. If it is a sensitive thing, how much do you want to trust your AI, right? You could certainly use it to poke
Mhm.
holes, show me all of my security holes and where it is I've created issues by adding this here and opening this integration point there, and how do I close those, right? But at the end of the day, how many people are going to be comfortable saying we had a security breach because our AI didn't catch it, and we just trusted the AI to do the right thing, and
Mhm.
nobody looked it over, right? I think there are going to
Yeah.
be plenty of people who are doing that, especially when you think about the areas of IT and technical infrastructure that need to be responsive to the folks who are the real innovators in the industry and who set the real curve on things like security, which are the criminals, right? They're the
Mhm.
ones that you got to respond to and all that jazz because it's really a matter of what is the sensitivity of what we're doing with this and how much of
Mhm.
that do we want to give up.
Absolutely. And I think I'm just so into the car analogy. As it's also, if you think about it, putting millions of new drivers behind the wheel,
Yep.
right? Millions of new businesses behind the wheel for the first time in these types of kind of AI race. When it
Mhm.
comes to what, like our question before about small businesses, well, maybe they didn't have a traditional development team, or maybe we have businesses, coders in the business right now that are vibe coding.
Yeah.
How do you handle that piece of it where these people were not traditionally trained in like software engineering or developer type roles, and now we have
Mhm.
that type of user based engineering in the organization?
So I think that the general answer to that is you have to create a mechanism for them to learn, right? You're not
Hmm.
going to stop it. The same way you're not going to have kids learning to drive cars.
Hmm.
And in the same way, you're not going to have kids who want to drive cars fast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to create a mechanism for pulling that in and for doing it safely. So when we think about those types of things, you're just using those things, using tools to do a good job, and pulling in the people that want to learn and that have an eagerness to do it. I think is an opportunity. The answer isn't to create barriers;
Hmm.
it's to break them down so
Hmm.
that we can get better faster. And that's what DevOps is generally intended to do in the first place, right? What is your IT department's job? If you really want to boil it down to why does DevOps exist?
Hmm.
It's to provide technical services to a business, right? Those technical services are for what? They're to help run your business so that your people don't have to do it on paper, right? To a certain degree, right? I'm
Hmm.
overemphasizing the
Yeah. Sure.
simplicity of this, but if we want to talk about it that way, then these are tools that continue to serve that purpose. And why would we want to slow down the whole idea behind this in the first place, which is to speed up? So we got to do those types of things. I do want to take on this conversation from our third year engineer here. Um,
Oh, okay. Great.
on any tips for this, I would say that understanding the flow of data from a software engineering perspective and the integration points is really going to be a fantastic starting point because at the end of the day, those are the most complicated parts, and the most complicated parts are usually where they break the most, right? Even our company, as a name, takes its name from confluences and rivers and being
Hmm.
areas where value comes together, resources come together, data comes together at integration
Hmm.
points as well. And all of those components can get really squirrely pretty quick if the design is bad. So when
Hmm.
we're thinking about chip design and those types of things, my thought process would be for speed and capacity an engineering perspective. That's the farther ahead folks are in those spaces, the better. It's at this point. I don't know how many times I sit at my computer and I realize the reason that it's operating so slow is because I've got 9 different documents, spreadsheets, and PowerPoints open that are shared live with several other people, and they're making changes on them. Right?
Hmm.
We're all working on the same documents, but they're all open at the same time. And so my internet is trying to keep up with that. This document's changing real time. So is this one? So is this one? So is this one? This one's not, but it's open on 3 different people's desktops. So I still got to
Hmm.
monitor for that and make all of those updates. So from a chip design perspective, capacity and speed is really going to be the thing
Hmm.
that runs everything. And then from a perspective of data, how much can we house and how much can we crunch? How quickly is really where I would focus a lot of effort. because those are really the pieces that make AI go the fastest. What can we process? How much can we process, and how quickly can we do it? And
Yeah.
that's going to be the answer to most of these AI types of questions.
So I'm going to take Avery's question here and I'm going to massage it a little bit because I think this speed question is a big conversation. So it feels like AI is exposing process inefficiencies that have just been normalized. And then also like because we have software development processes that are at like machine car speed, right? Vehicle speed.
Mhm.
Governance has to operate at the same speed. So how do you get a governance process to meet the same level at which the AI is able to create?
Um, that's a fantastic question, because I would say that the front end of it, the governance needs to anticipate, is actually, it needs to be faster,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is the same. It goes down to the same conversation as the criminals who are working to breach all of these things, right? I mean, I at some point in our lives, our phones will stop taking phone calls
Mm-hmm.
because the number of AI generated garbage is just too high. I get so many things, and the voices they sound real until until you listen to the actual
Mm-hmm.
voicemails, and they're all exactly the same, right? Even the tones and inflections. Hi, I noticed that you are looking for this and that and the other. I really was thinking about your challenge here, and I
Mm-hmm.
think we have a unique solution for you. And all the inflections in the voice and all that stuff sounds so real. Of course, not all of them are actually accurate to what it is I've been looking for. But when we're starting to talk about these process inefficiencies that have been normalized, that's a great example of one, even on my phone, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this robocalling garbage is creating inefficiencies on my side because I have no idea who's calling me, and I have
Mm-hmm.
no idea which phone calls are real and which phone calls are not.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I do with that? I just don't answer the phone, and I let if and I let the you know I, generally at this point, if you leave me a voicemail and it's an unknown number, it's getting deleted, right? But that's an inefficiency now that I've created in it, because if I have an important
Mm-hmm.
voicemail from somebody I don't know, where does that come from? The efficiency comes from the response to that, which is send me a text message and I will look at it and read it briefly, and I will know that more quickly than listening to it. So my inefficiency has an efficiency that follows, right? So the answer isn't to expose all of the inefficiencies that we've become more comfortable with, is to target the things that it is we need to make improvements on and be
Mm-hmm.
specific about that, which is again where the human side of things comes from. I don't think that we are in danger of, in any time in the next 5 to 10 years, AI knowing so much about this world that it can predict all things happening.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, you still are going to be reliant on somebody's gut, somebody's
Mm-hmm.
instinct, and what it is we should do, somebody's decision making process. Yeah, you can generally say, I have these possible strategic scenarios. I have these three possible distinctly different IT projects. One's going to help us increase our capacity for sales. One's going to help us increase our profitability, and one of them is going to help decrease our costs. We'll just play with the three different pieces of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which one should I do? AI will give you an answer based on what it thinks the most strategic decision is, based on the things that you give it, and it will say do this one, probably the profitability one because it maximizes the
Mm-hmm.
balance. Blah, 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 blah. But so we're going to develop that, and then we run into something that we didn't know about, and that changes the dynamic. We need to respond to that. Or something brand new comes. So one of our engineers invents something spectacular, and so we're going to put that on the back burner, and we're going to do something different, right? All of those are still human components that are a part of the governance of deciding what should we work on and when. So when we're feeding things to the development team from a software development lifecycle
Mm-hmm.
perspective, These are the integrations that we're going to have, this, that, and the other. Um, those pieces come together a bit more unpredictably in a way that AI can only guess at, same as the rest of us. Yeah. AI doesn't know that you're about to strike up a strategic partnership with some massive provider that we're then going to need to create VPNs and APIs and all these other things and shift our supply chain. It doesn't know that that's going to happen, right? So only the people who are negotiating that super secret deal think that this might. Yeah. So there's a lot of responsiveness in that still comes down to people being necessary. But to come back to the purpose of this question here and the conversation from an AI and DevOps perspective, we can then respond more quickly. Now I made this super secret deal, and the super secret deal is now public information. What do? We get to market fast, right?
Exactly.
Get out there and we get rolling. I need to create these integrations. I got to create these new parts. I got to create these new products, and we're ready to go. And that can all happen a whole lot faster by using AI to understand what areas in my software do I need to add these new functions to. What are my requirements actually going to be based on how my environment will respond to this new development, and what breakages might I be risking in other processes. And now my requirements get done. I get my development going. I have it help me write my code as an augmented tool, and then I start testing it. And AI, this is really, I think, of all of the areas where you can really do the most with AI and let it run free, is testing. It's simple. It's black and white. Does it work? Does it not? And user acceptance testing different. Quality assurance testing. I'm talking about. We can run all of that stuff. Just let it go, and we'll run it, and we will take something that takes weeks and run it in hours, maybe even minutes, and we'll spit it out. We'll be ready to go. A new product launch and a new super secret partnership that could have taken months to really get going can be done in days or weeks. And now we've accelerated our timing to market. DevOps is providing the value that it's supposed to. We're creating all the logins for our new partner into our system to be able to do all of this stuff, all of those things, and more quickly and effectively and efficiently, and they're ready to go. That's what we should be thinking about, in my opinion. But maybe I'm just I'm getting a landline.
Yeah, you hit a nerve here, right? Just don't answer with your
can't be on
thing.
the internet and the phone at the same time. Just
But I think you're exactly right, because having governance be faster, I feel like is the wrong objective, right? Having it be embedded, because that's like thinking, okay, that's a separate process. It's almost like thinking of like, how do we make the police faster? Because our cars are faster, right? You don't, right? It's impossible to make that faster than anything else like that. But you can, design roads and sensors and controls and like, those safety measures. And it's the same sort of that applies to AI. It's how do you ensure that it's catching those, we always say our friends in cybersecurity are like, don't say the B word. But how do you ensure that that is caught, the breach, right? Before we can, make governance more continuous, not something that like most governance of like the 2020s is like almost event driven. Something happens, we got to review change, and AI requires continuous governance. And I think that's the biggest change in that process is, it has to be getting evaluated automatically, not like quarterly or monthly or whatever else,
And you got to stay ahead of the learning curve on it too. I promise you, I am 100% certain on this. The people that know the most about how AI can be used in your environment are the people that are using it to break in. 100% certain of that, because they're the ones that are trying to figure out the most creative ways of using something that nobody else has ever thought of before to do something nefarious, right? It's just the way that it goes. It's the way the world works. Some of the most important innovators of all time were criminals, right? That which is fine to a certain extent, I guess. I
Which
don't
is
go too far down that rabbit hole. Now
It's
that's
just funny
starting
that
to
you say
slip
that
down
because on
my
our
throat.
TikTok live, we have many of our super users, our super fans, they're paid to break into enterprises. Like
Mhm.
that's their full-time job. And the
Yeah.
bigger, the better. And so they talk a lot about how they've used Copilot specifically is what they've targeted of late. And that's a big piece of what now goes into your governance infrastructure is that outside security understanding, but they call themselves like white collar criminals because that's their entire job is to break
Yeah.
into the biggest businesses in the world. And they give us a lot of like information as to like where people are missing different things, and where this old code gives
Yeah.
them the or
Well,
the
at the end of the day, the best example of this that I can come up with that might resonate for folks is "Catch Me If You Can." Right? This guy's fraudster, just personality, just dynamic personality, impersonating all kinds of different roles, this, that, and the other. I mean, this person that was all over. They were a pilot, they were a doctor, but at the end of the day, they're a fraudster, right? And what happened when they caught him? The FBI hired him.
yeah.
Said, "Show me how to do this,"
Hmm.
because they're the ones setting the front end of the curve. So that's all a different type of conversation, I guess. Is I'm having a hard time staying away from this. The criminals know your business better than you do. But at the end of the day, I think that from a perspective of AI and DevOps, AI is like a nail gun, right? In the way that I think about that is you can hammer in a bunch of nails, right? Boom, 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 boom. You can build a house and you can do that, right? Um, that's not what people do anymore. They
Hmm.
buy somebody with a pneumatic nail gun comes in, and in a matter of minutes, pop, 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 it's done, and they leave, and they're done in a day, right? As opposed to a team of 10 that takes a week to do the same nailing, right? That's what AI is. Now, if we're not paying attention and we put our hand down, and pop, pop, and now all of a sudden my hand's nailed to the joists, right? And all of a sudden I'm hanging from the trusses because I nailed my hand to the 2x4. But at the end of the day, if we can use this tool to be faster in
Hmm.
DevOps, we can do it with safety in mind. I like that moniker, as fast as we carefully can.
Hmm.
Then AI can be used in all stages of DevOps, and it can automate a lot, it can create a lot, but it needs to be done safely. That's
Hmm.
where governance comes in. And at the end of the day, if your hand's in the way and some machine is spitting out nails, and that nail goes through your hand, who are you going to blame for that? Probably yourself. Probably what you should do, right? So it AI should be used extensively. I believe in that. But at
Hmm.
the same time, it should also be taken with a bit of a trusting approach and saying, how do we make sure that we're doing this right? We're using
Hmm.
this tool for the right thing. Because you could use a nail
Hmm.
gun for the wrong things too.
I completely agree with you, and I think this is a good kind of segue to what I want to spend our last couple minutes here on. Is we've gotten a lot of requests of late for like DevOps, specifically like AI
Mhm.
training, right? Like, how are you going
Yeah.
to give that as an opportunity to kind of like mass train your DevOps team? And it's worried us a little bit, not because we don't want to do it, or we can't help with that, but the idea of outsourcing any sort of AI DevOps training is really dangerous. Not only from a standpoint of the industry will take advantage of you, right? Bigger consultancies are going to see, just overall dollar signs for time and materials. I'm going to give you, 10 workshops of 10 people over 10 weeks, that type of thing, which is going to get expensive for you. But also understanding like this is something that has to be within, the DNA of your organization. This is your circulatory system, and outsourcing your heartbeat to someone else isn't going to be the best way to make sure that you're internalizing this speed of change and the governance around it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, how you can start to understand how we're developing a successful and healthy team in this way while making sure that they're effectively supported and not giving the keys away to our Ferrari, which is our business.
Well, I think to a certain extent, I disagree with you on that. Go hire somebody who's an expert in it, right? That's what consultants exist for. And how is your business supposed to keep up with the speed of AI when that's not your business's core competency, right? So there's a bit of that which is you should if you're looking to learn a skill that you don't have and that you don't want to develop as part of your core business model, you just want to learn it so that you can use it for other things, then hire somebody, have them help you do it. But at the same time, hire somebody that does it well and that knows what they're doing, right? You could hire a chef to teach you how to use a nail gun, and what do you think is going to happen? You're going to miss out on a lot of the actual purpose, right? So don't hire somebody that doesn't know anything about AI and DevOps. They're going to teach you a bunch of bad things. They're going to teach you a bunch of bad habits. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have a bigger problem on your hands because they're going to say, yeah, dude, you just use that AI to write all your code. All you got to do is tell it what you want to do, man. You can use your AI, it'll write that code, it'll test it, it'll deploy it into your environments all by itself, man. It's going to be awesome. All you got to do is have somebody in the business say, I want a feature, and the rest is history, man. It'll be done by Friday. And oh, wait, it is Friday. Yeah, no, it'll be done by end of day. We're good to go, right? That's stupid, right? Um, don't like you use your brain when you hire people, right? It's expensive. Yes, it can also get more expensive if you really screw it up. The same way, putting a nail through your hand can create an emergency room bill that can get really expensive. So hire professionals, hire people who can tell you with definitive um, evidence that they know what they're talking about, and spend your money on them. Don't try to get cheap with it and say, well, it's going to be expensive. And then, so I got to figure out how I'm going to save money on this expensive thing. How do you vet AI experts? The same way you vet anybody else, right? Ask good questions, figure out whether talk to references, right? Talk to somebody that use them. And that you'll find out pretty quick. I keep finding nails in my food after I hired those guys. Like, okay, well, we have a problem, right? So hire folks that have a competency in this. I think that at the end of the day, the AI side of the competency is not what we're looking for as much as the actual skill set that they're going to train you on, right? If you're looking for AI training in DevOps, look at somebody that was doing DevOps before AI existed. Probably experts in it, yeah. If it's like, we've got this new company, we're going to do AI DevOps, we're going to teach the world, and you look at them, and what did they do 10 years ago? They were chefs, right? Like, probably not, maybe not so much. They're trying to make a shift. I would be skeptical of that, yeah. So don't try to save money where you shouldn't. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for that. Tell us how you really feel. Every time that, and you guys know, Adam and I are married, so I feel like we have, a close relationship. Every time that I think he's gonna go into this exploratory, okay, step 1, 2, 3, then he's gonna be like, "That's stupid. I hate that. We're never doing that." It's like, oh, okay, well, here we are. But I think the thesis of that conversation is that's not a forever relationship. Okay, that's coming in, building you a program and making sure that it's effectively supporting you. I think with all of these type of changes, whether it's DevOps, like actual development of code via AI, governance, or outside help, you're going to need a whole new set of KPIs. And you're going to have to figure out how you measure the success of those things. Because again, gone are the days where we're just spending AI exploratory budget, right? We've got to figure out how this makes us faster, how this makes us better, and how it makes our team feel like they're actually engaging in something. Like developers, they're sensitive folks, right? We can't just take away the things that make them, make put them together. That's why whenever you have a developer that actually gets along with people, you're like, oh, that's the next IT manager right there, because people actually listen to that person and they have that influence. But I think that's the piece that really is going to be business A versus business B. Can you figure out how to measure these types of things to know if they're successful or not within 6 months? Or are you going to be over here being like, well, maybe it's going to change. Well, maybe it didn't do this, or maybe it's going to do this. And it's like, gone are the days of maybe. It either is or it isn't. And you've got to figure out how you're going to essentially be profitable within that level of AI development.
Yeah. Well, and assume that everybody's using AI to lie to you. Just for real, I'm serious. Assume that every salesperson that you talk to is using AI to answer your question. All of your good questions that you think are gotchas, assume they're putting them into an AI and saying, I have no clue what this question means. I have no idea what they're actually talking about, but I want to sell them something for a lot of money. So, how should I respond to this? Assume that that's coming from them. The only way you can get through it today is having real conversations, face to face, or at least face to face remote, right? Because at the end of the day, if it's text, if it's written in any type of text, and it's not a live interaction, it could be AI, and that they could be using it to generate whatever it is. They may not even understand what they're actually putting in front of you. They're just trying to make a deal so that they can cash a check and they can feed their family, right?
Absolutely. All right. Give us your 3 takeaways from this conversation.
Oh gosh, 3 takeaways from this conversation: the criminals are in the front of the line. Sales guys are using AI to lie to you, to steal your money, and that it's all going to be your fault because you're going to put a nail through your hand.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
the 3 lessons here are: AI is a tool that we should be using, and that we should be using not to just accelerate one point of it, of the process, but to accelerate all of them in a way that we can manage it, right? Think about the management side of things. So AI is as a tool to accelerate the whole system of DevOps, but in different ways along the way, right? That's why each step has its own different purpose. So that's thing one. Thing two is that you should be thinking of AI as a way of giving you the information that you need to manage the same way that you would hire a team of people to manage a process itself, right? IT managers don't write code anymore. They have the teams that do that, right? IT AI managers should have AIs that do that for them, that they manage that conversation and they review it as a quality manager. So that's thing two. And thing three is that AI can be used effectively as a great tool, or it can be used ineffectively as a great tool. And you want to make sure that you're focusing on effectiveness of the tool that you're using, because at the end of the day, you can use AI the same way you can use a nail gun. It can create problems, or it can create speed and quality. And if we use it properly, that it will yield those results for us. So those will be my 3 takeaways.
absolutely. I think those are all, I mean, on that happy note, you guys have a great weekend.
Watch out for those AI criminals and liars.
Everyone's lying to you. Everyone hates you. You're never going to do this. Like, this has just been the most positive live I've ever been a part of. No, I think again, what Adam's saying here, a lot has to do with like, what is your specific strategy? And that's what we're asking you to figure out. We never ask you not to buy something or, do something like that. We ask you to know what you're buying. Simple as that. That's all, right? Figure it out to make sure that you're smart enough to do this. You know how to do this. If you have questions, definitely DM us. Every strategy is different. Especially, it depends on, as we talked in this conversation, the size of your business, what systems you're running, the technical maturity of your business, your processes, your design, your architecture. All of those are going to, really negate what you're going to be able to utilize on this type of process. So I invite you to be able to DM us if you have questions, no matter if it's after this live, if you're watching it on repeat. We're always happy to answer that. You can DM us on LinkedIn, on any social media platform. You can also reach us both at our email, which is kyler@theconfluential.com or adam@theconfluential.com, and reach out to our team as well. So this live happens every Friday throughout the summer. We're going to do some shifting in live times, but we'll post to be able to do that. If you join today, definitely head over to TikTok. We'll be doing a live in about an hour here on a very similar topic. So we invite you to join us there as well. But thank you to everyone with the great questions. Thank you to the audience. If you're watching this after the fact, feel free to keep the comments coming, because again, it's less about what we say and our general recommendations. It's more about what's best for your business, and that's going to be on you to be able to figure out. Nobody else can do that for you except for you as a technical leader. So thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you next week.